Hello, hello, hello. So we're live officially? Yes, we are live
Yeah,
officially.
it's going down.
Hello, 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 everyone on the interwebs. I am Joelle Bea Uzori, aka your man's first choice from the Mahogany Project, bringing you This Is Us. And I'm here with the illustrious men like us. If you gentlemen want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right. Yeah, I'll start out. Thank you, Troy. So my name is Chris. I am the main host of the main host and originator of the Men Like Us podcast. It is a podcast aimed at men who are attracted to, date, marry, engaged with women in the trans community in any way. It is a men's space. It's a program that's for us, by us. And, the real goal of the show is to really help men in their journey, let other men know that they are not alone. There's nothing wrong with them. And, try to be a support for a lot of men out there struggling with their attraction, with their masculinity, and, looking for some semblance of community.
Well,
Brother Troy.
okay, I am Troy. I am the co-creator of the Trans Supportive Brotherhood, which was a precursor to Chris's group, where we, again, it was a men's space to allow men to have conversations that we weren't having anywhere else, to give us brotherhood, to give us support, and to help us grow. Because far too many times, too many men were stuck in the mud, spinning their wheels and not having a place to go. And this gave them, a place to go. So that's who I am.
Mhm. All right.
I'm Roy. I don't have a Facebook group or none of that, but I'm just a loud, proud, open black man.
Hello. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. I won't lie, I am a little nervous. Y'all's reputation precedes y'all. Not a bad thing, not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. But it's just that you all are known. So we definitely don't want to have the people waiting. We have an amazing conversation planned. Anybody that knows me knows that I like a little icebreaker. So the icebreaker that I have for us is if you all want to tell me your most embarrassing date story, explicit or not.
Well, I guess the one that comes to mind is my younger days. This is a high school story, so sorry it's not particularly adult, but I had some way got this girl to say yes to go to the dance with me, and she was gorgeous, and I was so nervous. And it was supposed to be more of like a double date. I was supposed to go to my boy's house, and we were supposed to launch from there with a limo and pick up both the girls, and then roll out. And I got to my boy's house, and I realized like I had my suit and my shirt and my shoes, and I left my pants at home. So I ended up having to go out wearing had to wear my friend's dad's pants. We were the same size. It was great. But, he's old school, so they were more like bell-bottom pants. And in the 90s, that stood out like a sore thumb. But, it was still a great night. It was just, like, stupid. But, yeah.
What about you, Troy?
Well, I guess the only one that comes to mind is when I dated a young woman of trans experience who had never been on a date. We were at a restaurant that wasn't that fancy. She kept asking me, could she order anything? I was like, of course. When the waitress kept coming back and forth to the table, she kept saying, why does she keep bothering us? Do you know her? She was playing music at the table. And I almost left. And the hostess in the lobby, she grabbed me and she said, I know, but you can't leave her. And
So you was gonna leave her at the restaurant?
Oh, I was going to leave. I was so embarrassed. She was playing very objectionable music. cussing and all this other stuff, and it was just like, you can't do that. And I had never been so embarrassed in my entire life, and I was just gonna pay the tab, give her cab fare and leave, but I toughed it out. I took her home, and I went on my way.
What about you, Roy?
I dated a broke stripper.
A broke stripper? What?
Yeah.
Tell me more. No, I mean, I don't know no broke stripper.
I mean,
What's a broke stripper?
every time I got up with her, she just looked like she didn't have no money. Like, bed was on the floor. And then when I go to the strip club, the only time she really made money was when I came. So I had that very impression that she was broke. She ain't really wasn't making no money.
She was
So
giving.
I was embarrassed. So I had to leave her alone.
Roy wins.
It's giving struggle. Well, I think I'm trying to think. So I think my embarrassing story is I went out on a date with someone who was, he also hadn't been on a lot of dates. He was younger. And he ended up on the date telling me that he got a girl pregnant. And it was in the middle of the date. And we had been seeing each other for a while. And he said in the middle of the date that he just found out that a girl that he was with got pregnant, and there was that. So I was like, well, the date is over, and it's been great, and it's been real. So yeah. So well, we thank you all for those interesting, embarrassing date stories. So we're going to go ahead and get into our topic, which is basically trans-amorous men, men like you all. So the first question that I have is, name a myth that people often have regarding trans-amorous men.
Be gay.
Yeah, I'll throw. Okay, go. What up?
Be gay.
Okay.
That's a good one. That's a good one for sure. I think a myth that is going to that people, or a bad stereotype, whatever notion that people have about trans-amorous men, is that all men in this category they're all the kinds of men that can't get women, period. Like, they're all incels, they're all fat, living in their mom's basement, they're losers. Like, that is a perception that's out there in the LGBT community and outside of it.
Well, there's also the myth that the DL man, the so-called open trans-attracted man, and trans-amorous men are all the same people. These are men on different levels of their own journey, of their own transition, that we never talk about. We don't talk about what our journeys look like. And for the most part, no one wants to hear it. And so people make assumptions, and they have their own ideas about who we are and what our journeys look like. And that's, I think, is one of the biggest problems that we have in this community.
Okay. What about you, Chris?
We're talking about stereotypes?
We are talking about a myth or stereotype.
It's a myth or a stereotype. There are so many weird ones out there. I think there is a myth that that all trans-amorous men prefer one specific thing. So, among some groups, it's, well, all these men prefer post-op women. Another group, all these niggas love pre-op women, or all these niggas only love women who are bodied out. And, I have to repeatedly say on my show, we are a community of individuals. This group is very diverse in its tastes and their backgrounds, who they are, where they come from, their situation. It is not a one size fits all. There you go. What up, Corey?
definitely, Corey. The men are secretly a chaser. That is a very popular myth. I feel
Well,
like, huh?
here's the thing. Well, men chase women. Period. That goes with being a woman. That's what men do. So when you talk about, what's a chaser, and by the way, I saw Rayvon pop in. What's up, brother Rayvon? Um,
Yeah, the comments are definitely coming in fast. We're trying to keep up. The people are definitely engaged.
well, I definitely want to, and brother Ray, what's up, brother Ray? I mean, and one other myth is that we aren't connected. The guys that I'm mentioning, I have conversations with on the phone. We have Zoom calls. We go back and forth on Messenger. Chris and I talk like all the time. When we have hours long conversations because we are friends. You know, I think too many people think that we are this disconnected group of men, and we're not as disconnected as most people think. And so all of that comes from them not talking to us and listening to us. And I think because we don't get listened to, because we are always painted as the villain sometimes, that they don't understand who we are and what we're all about.
I completely, definitely agree. I'm trying to see where some men still chase women because I didn't aware that the men were still chasing the women. They might engage in a slight jog, but I didn't know it was like a chase to the woman.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, let's be real, largely in how things happen out there in the dating space, they haven't changed. They haven't changed, at least from our side. Men are still doing the same shit. The rules are still the same. The rules have never changed for us. So women, always say, I want to be pursued. Okay, well, we're doing that. We're showing the attention, doing whatever we got to do to get your attention, X, Y, and Z. But men are going to continue to do that. They've never stopped.
I completely agree.
And Doug made a comment, about our Zoom kickback sessions. We not only connect with guys all around the country, we connect with guys all around the world.
Yeah.
We have guys who live internationally, who stay up, to 3, 4, and 5 in the morning to just have a conversation with like-minded men. So, I think again the biggest myths, about who we are, all come from them not knowing who we are.
I completely agree. I think a myth is even that there aren't any trans-amorous men. Like there aren't men that like trans, women of trans experience. I think that's a myth within itself. I completely agree. Oh, wait, we have a question before we proceed from Bernice, because I'm like, the comments are coming in. So Bernice asked, where do you find trans-amorous men to included, get their feedback, and listen to them? I'm not sure.
Well, it comes from our groups that we are all in. That's the one thing. Chris has his group, and I'm a member of Chris's group. Chris and Roy are a member of the Transporter Brotherhood, and we have built relationships from that with a lot of different guys all over the country. One of the brothers came from Philadelphia the other day, a couple weeks ago. I picked him up. He's a truck driver. Picked him up. We went to the cigar bar. We had a good old time. We chewed fat. We talked about the things that we go through. They're unique to men who date trans women, and we had a great time. And it was a long time coming. One of the other brothers just left to move to California. We saw him over the weekend. To just give him some love and wish him well. In fact, today is his birthday. Brother Marcus, happy birthday. So we, it's again, we aren't a monolith like Chris said, and we are also, guys who care about each other, because if we don't care about each other, nobody else will.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. Well, the trans women also care about you. I want to say that. So the next question, I'm going to kind of go ahead and move into it. So dating, and this is kind of about dating in the South specifically, but I'll just open it up to everyone. Dating in the South and dating in general is just really difficult for trans women. But we never talk about how difficult it is for trans-amorous men. So I would love to get your feedback on how dating is challenging for you all.
I'll take it, Chris.
Anyone can come in.
Yeah, have at it first. I'm getting in on this. You go ahead.
Since since they call me OG Yoda, I am the old Jedi that sits on Dagobah waiting for the young Jedi's to come and learn the ways of the Force.
OG Yoda.
OG
Okay.
Yoda. I think the biggest thing for me personally is I'm a quasi public figure. I am much older than most of the guys, and I don't have the time to help someone like, love, and respect themselves. You need to be where I am. I've been openly dating trans women for more than 20 years now. I don't need someone who isn't sure of themselves. I don't need someone who is still struggling to embrace their womanhood. I just need somebody who we can vibe together, we can grow together, and we can do great things together. And most women are still on their own journeys of self-discovery. And I'm sorry, but I no longer have the patience to hold your hand.
Yeah, I would say it can be a little difficult to find lifestyles that match up. So, and everybody's in a different space. Where I'm at is not where some of the guys in our group who are in their mid-20s are at. I'm living my 30s life, and it's all about, setting up for the future, stability, career, all of that stuff. So for me, it's just been a little difficult to find somebody who's on the same page as me. And I'm not saying they're not out there. I know plenty of smart, amazingly accomplished women in this community. But I think that's been one of my issues. And also, I'm just going to be frank. I think it has been challenging. The mental aspect of it is challenging. Let's just be real. There's a lot of women in this community. They go through a lot of shit. There's a lot of mental scars on them by the time they get to us. And some of the times that has not been tended to. So, it's been my testimony. It's been a testimony of some other men in the space where they're just like, okay, I like you, but I can't take on all of the things that are happening inside of you. And I need you to go see a professional. I need you to go get help somewhere because your partner, I can't take all of this. So it's, sometimes for a lot of guys, it's, they find a girl they like, she's pretty, is good, cool. They vibe X, Y, and Z. But then, once you get a little bit underneath the surface, you start to see that there's a lot of untreated trauma that is just too much for them to handle. So that's been the destruction of a few relationships out there as well. But yeah, I think that's mostly. Oh, also for me, struggles in this space. It is also, and speaking of the trauma part, it is finding somebody who doesn't. And I know this sounds really crazy, but it can be a little bit of a struggle to find women who don't have an overall negative outlook on men. And it's kind of like a lot of times guys run into women in the space that because of whatever happened to them in their past, they just don't have a high opinion of men. And, a lot of times these guys are just like, me included, we're like, okay, well, I'm out. Like in the same way I would expect a woman to be out if the man that she was talking to, she started to realize that this dude hates women. Like he got no respect for women. Why the fuck? No, like I would expect you, Joel, to leave that motherfucker, walk away and not try to partner with that person. So that's what happens a lot of time in this space as well. So I'm going on and on. I'm going to end it right there, but I got to be real.
What about you, Roy?
Well, for me, I don't really have any struggles. Not when it comes to dating.
But you dated the
sound.
Wait a minute, because you dated the stripper.
Nah, I mean I don't want to sound conceited or cocky or anything like that. I mean I'm still in love with my ex, so
that's the struggle.
That's where I'm at with it. I mean it ain't really a struggle, but that's just where I'm at with it.
I definitely thank you all for your responses. I definitely hear about the challenges that it is dating, girls like us or women like us. I think it's hard. I think there's a lot of layers. I think it's very complicated. I think the fact that the journey of trans women is not a monolith. So it's not a straight path. It's a rocky, rugged, broken trail that's littered with all sorts of things. And I think that a lot of people tend to not even have the tools, the resources, the language, let alone the ability to even begin to heal their traumas before they start dating because they're just trying to navigate, daily life. So I definitely hear and echo what you all are saying. I'm not a trans-amorous man, but I definitely, from the other side, looking on and just hearing, I definitely understand.
Well,
Um,
well,
so,
well, let me add this real quickly. Part of it is because I really do think that sometimes we're not respectful and empathetic about each of our journeys. So a lot of the men don't understand the journey that some trans women go through, especially guys who are newer into this community. And then especially with a lot of the women, they don't really think we go through a journey, and because of that, you get this you hit this wall where you know they think that all men should be here, and they don't understand that there's levels to this.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. I don't know if y'all see the comments, but the comments are booming. It's
Yeah,
giving it's,
I'm reading them.
it's giving club this is us right now. That's how the comments are booming. I can't even read the comments because they are coming in extremely fast. I mean, it's whether it's love for you all, whether it's there's a lot of questions. I'll try to come around to some of them, but definitely, I think it's challenging on both sides. I definitely want to echo that sentiment. So my next question is actually, so we're in 2021, and the level of trans representation has increased. But how do you all feel about the representation of, yes, Danielle, I am newscaster Joelle.
Yeah.
How do you all feel about the representation of trans-amorous men? Do you all feel like that representation has increased? Do you feel like there's no representation? I'm really curious to hear what you all have to say.
Obviously representation has increased. Most of it is not positive, and I can't say that I identify with any of those portrayals, including Poppy from Pose, because everybody wants to throw out Poppy. I get season 3 happen. That's cool. But the reality is most of the men who are calling themselves trans attracted, trans amorous, whatever, most of the men that y'all are running to, they're not coming from inside the community. They weren't in ballroom. They weren't out there selling themselves on the piers. Like that experience that he had was coming from inside the community. Most of these guys are coming in from a cis hetero dominant culture lifestyle into this space. And I haven't seen a great portrayal or of anybody that's doing that. Anybody who's being whatever characters they come up with. So
let me echo what you said, Chris. I never watched Pose because I'm old enough that I came through. I started dating trans women in 1983. So it's before a lot of the girls who may be on this call, longer than they've been alive. So I have a different view and a different understanding. And let me be very, very clear. I wouldn't be the man that I am today without those women that I met. And yes, some of them were sex workers that some men today would think that are ne'er-do-wells. A lot of those women are still in my life today. And we're talking about 25, 30 years, 35 years of knowing women who have always had my back, who took the time, who took the very time to understand that I had no one, and that if they didn't help me, then no one else would. Now, saying that, and I'll try to keep this real short. I remember I used to hear, and Chris, you probably know where I'm going with this, where girls would say, If only we had a black celebrity that would come up and say that he loves us. And Brother Malik did. He did. Did he make mistakes? Oh, he made a whole lot of mistakes and missteps, and he didn't have the language, and he didn't have the right verbiage to be a representation of what we would consider a trans-amorous man. But yet he stepped up and he got stomped on. I know the feeling. But just like my brother Rayvon said, you know, he was able to reach out to me. He lives here in the city. He was able to reach out to me. He stopped being alone. And so what we're doing, what Chris and I are doing, and what other men like us are doing, like Roy, because Roy has put himself out there as well. What we are doing is saying, hey, we're here. And Chris is in media. I'm in financial services. I'm not sure what Roy does, but we're in different professions. We're out there, and yet we are embracing who we are. And I still think that there's not enough representation, but we're here and we're trying to make a difference.
Roy, did you have something?
Yeah, me personally, I kind of like it because it's showing the world that there are men like us. Is it good? Nah. Can they clean it up? Yeah, and I think in due time they will clean it up, especially when it comes to like shows like Pose. I think in their future, with different directors and writers, they're gonna start showing men like brothers like Troy and Chris in the near future. I just think that as long as brothers like us keep doing what we're doing, I think in the near future, positive roles will be put out there for more people to see and better representation to be shown of us.
I completely agree. I definitely think that we're moving in the right direction. We're moving the needle. I think that there are always going to be mistakes whenever we're trying to liberate everyone's frame of thinking. I definitely think that there's always going to be mistakes. There's always going to be missteps. Nothing will ever be right the first time. I just think that we have to take those moments and learn from those mistakes and not make the same mistake twice. And not villainize people for making mistakes. I think too many times people want to cancel people instead of calling them in and not recognize that it doesn't have to be either or. It could be and both. So I definitely think that we're moving the needle, even if it seems like it's a millimeter of a millimeter. We just have to continue to move the needle and continue to own our own stories and tell them. So I completely agree with you all. I know it is a lot of questions in the comments. Y'all keep them coming. I can't even begin to say them all because they're coming so fast. We are covering a lot of the questions with these questions, so I want y'all to hang tight. But definitely keep giving us the comments, keep showing us love, making sure y'all like and share, and keep the comments coming. So next question. As a trans-amorous man, what is it like to, or how do you feel, or how do you engage with other trans-amorous men that maybe aren't as out? I don't even want to say out because there's no really such thing as out, but maybe trans-amorous men that are more DL, more discreet. How do you all engage with them, or what is that engagement like?
You want me to grab this one first, Chris?
Yeah, you guys can go first. I have my own little
because in my hustle job, I do security at a couple of clubs and at after hours, and so and I helped run an after hour from 2007 until before COVID. It's really funny to see guys who are in the community, and I won't necessarily say DL because they're out in community, but they aren't really out in real life, and I've reached out to guys like that. Most of the time I'm disappointed because they fit an archetype that a lot of the girls like. They're not evolved. They display a bit of very toxic and very fragile masculinity that they view as being desirable. Uh, Very recently, I reached out to a young man who literally, before he threw his ex, well, now they're back together, his current girlfriend off a second floor balcony. I tried to have an intervention, and I had to realize that sometimes these guys aren't ready to move forward. Now, there are guys on this call. Ray Vaughn is one. Uh, and if you go to my YouTube page, which is either under Mr. Kennedy or Ask a Trans-amorous Man, I changed the name. But just read the comments. Just go through my videos and read the comments, and you'll see men, saying thank you for being there. Thank you for being visible. Thank you for using your face and your voice to help change the paradigm. Because we don't get people who look like us and sound like us having these open and honest conversations. And that's one of the reasons why I support Chris. Chris is doing something that I'm an old man, and I don't have the desire to do that. But my inbox is open, my phone is always on, and I'm always there to help other men when they want it. But that's the key word, the key phrase. I can only help you if you really want to help yourself. And so I had to learn that the hard way, that a lot of these men are where they are and do what they do because they're allowed to do what they do.
Before you start, Roy, I do want to say, because I'm reading the comments on the side. The term DL and discreet, I said it because it's triggering. I said it because you instantly, when you hear it, you know the type of person that we're talking about. While men that are trans-amorous, there's no such thing as coming out as trans-amorous. I said DL and discreet because it is a triggering term. And because instantly, when you hear DL and discreet man, you instantly know what man we're talking about. Because I didn't feel like being around the bush with the language. So that's why I said DL and discreet. I mean discreet, but I said DL on purpose. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, before you go, Chris, let me go. I moved out here to Philly from Boston, so I haven't really engaged with any other males like that who I can believe that might be DL or discreet. So I'm gonna let Chris go. So I don't want to take too much time on that.
All right, man. Yeah, I would say how I handle that is I allow guys who say that they're DL and really a lot of guys don't say, they're just like, hey, I'm just not ready yet. Like, I'm not ready to take that step just yet. I will allow them to be in spaces with me and other men. For me, it's all about, I draw the line at, are you actively harming the community? So, a lot of times say, hey, if you're not at that point yet to be open in your journey, cool. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you're not harming the community while you're doing that. So once they get out there and start trying to be DL and start breaking hearts and hurting feelings and doing damage to the community, that's where I draw them. We cannot be friends. We cannot be connected in any way. So I do give space for guys who just aren't there yet. And, I love to give them conversation and help them get to that point where, I've even sat there. I talked to a guy before he talked to his mom about it. And, had the conversation with his mother. Most Black men have that conversation with their mothers about this. It's a big part of it. But I talked to him on the phone. All right, got him prepped up. Let's go. Make the call. Then I'll do a debrief call with him right afterwards to say, okay, how was it? Where are you at? Are you guys still talking? X, Y, and Z? Because some people just need a little support. Because I know you said like there is no such thing as coming out, but there really is. Because a lot of times when I'm just speaking as a Black man, your mother is a big deal. And for a lot of people, how your parents are a big deal. A lot of gay kids out there hold back on coming out because they're worried about how their parents are going to react, if they're still going to be accepted. And a lot of trans-amorous men feel that same way because in reality, the dominant society doesn't see trans women as women. So therefore they see us as gay. So, oh my God, my son is gay, X, Y, and Z. So, you know, I do have grace in the fact that with these guys that, like Troy says, have enough want to. Now I have a family member that ain't got no want to. This nigga is gonna stay DL forever until he gets him the most bad chick of all time, according to him. But you know, in that case, that's my blood. Can't disown him. But you know, all I could do was just try to be an example and, you know, try to show that actually it isn't that bad being in the space and being brave. And once you cross through that threshold of being open, it's mostly harmless. It's pretty good. You just got to take that step.
But we have to discuss fear at some point, and I'm not sure exactly where we can fit that in, because the fear that most men have uh, tends to be
Probably
unfounded.
the
Let's
deaths.
I mean, we could talk about it next. We could talk about it now. I'll go ahead and we could definitely talk about it with the next question if we
Okay.
want. Let's it now. It's up, you know.
No, it'll. You're right, Chris. It'll flow through with the next question. So just ask the next question, and then we can address that.
So we all know that the killing of the trans community, specifically Black trans women, continues to be a national epidemic. This year is shaping up to be the worst year when it comes to the murders of trans persons, specifically Black trans women. As a trans-amorous man, how do you all feel about that? Like, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings?
Okay, I'm gonna take the lead on this one. Um, Most men live in fear. You know, they can't accept who they are and who they love, and this fear, you know, for the most part, is unfounded because, you know, back in the day, I'll speak from myself. When I thought that I was just being as secretive and as DL and as shadow as possible, I had so many people who were in my circle who knew what the fuck I was doing, because some of them were doing it, but others knew and just, you know, didn't care because they loved me and they respected me anyway. And so I allowed my own fear and my own thoughts of what might happen guide, you know, my actions. And a lot of these guys take that fear, takes them to that next step. It takes them to violence because they want to erase a girl, and erase her influence on him, because he can't look in the mirror and accept himself. You know, when I speak about violence against, you know, Black trans women in particular, it is simply because these men, just like the pastor here who killed Kelly Stroh, uh, without even knowing his story, I knew what was up with him because he met her on a stroll. I knew that that wasn't his first time there. I knew that other girls had an opinion on him. I knew that he was probably violent because he was dealing with his own issues, and all of that during the pretrial. All of that came out to be true because these men literally live in this cycle of fear, in this cloud that they can't get out of, and that's probably the biggest problem. You know, we can talk about, and I'll try to make this short. We can talk about, you know, I might be ostracized, I might be called gay, I might. But until you do it, you'll never know. And I had all of those questions. And Chris, to your point about mothers, I went to my mother first. Well, second, I went to my oldest son first, and I went to my mother because you want your mothers to understand. But I was blessed that my mother actually grew up with someone intersex who ended up killing herself 70 years ago, more than 70 years ago now. And so she understood what was going on, and it made her understand me better.
Well, for me, I hate it. I don't like it. And it's the main reason why I decided to be as loud as I am. It's my attempt to hopefully encourage dudes, motivate dudes to walk in their truth. show them that the fear is not real. That's all I can do, and that's why I do what I do.
And on that tip, I will say that part of what I do is, or part of my motivation or my goal is, I think what I do with the podcast and being an example and having a group, a place for men to go to support each other, to be honest and open about themselves. Really, my goal is to save a life. I want to reach some of these young guys that, their upbringing didn't give them the tools that they needed to deal with this, to deal with the shock or whatever, or finding out your girl is trans or whatever girl you're dealing with. We got to somebody has to step up and say, hey, it's okay. It's cool. Oh, you like trans women? That's cool, man. That's cool. You still a man. I'm still a man. Like, ain't nothing changed about you. Ain't nothing to be afraid of. You good. Because a lot of these young men, like, they just jump from the fear straight to killing. And, I really want to get a hold of some of these young guys before they go out there and do something bad. So that's why I'm trying to reach people across the internet, get out there on Instagram, get these hashtags rolling, like make myself as visible as possible in the hopes that I could change somebody's life and steer them in a better direction before they make a mistake.
Oh, boy. Get out.
Okay, so Crystal, we have the comments are still coming in very fast. But since we are talking about fear, Crystal actually asked a great question: How do we overcome this fear? How do we begin to overcome this fear? Because I know it's a massive thing to overcome.
Roy, I'll let you take that one first.
I don't have an answer for that.
Oh. Well, I can only talk. I can only speak from what it was for me, and really for me, it was a friend. I mean, really, my journey really took off once I met someone else like me. Once I realized I wasn't the only one, and I had this friend. He really showed me the way. He modeled like, oh well, hey, did I have this relationship? I love my girl. This, and this, and I'm like, wow. I can do this. This can be my life. That's great. And, with his support, I worked my way up to the point where I was able to be open with my loved ones and friends and really be open with everybody on Facebook, all the people that knew me in the church growing up, all the people from the block, all the people from high school, like all of that stuff. So for me, it took a friend, and I know from other guys, it took them finding either my current podcast or my previous podcast to get the revelation. I know it sounds weird, but there are a lot of men out there that really think that there's nobody else like them, that they're like the only dude out there like themselves. And, just having that sense of community, that sense of not being alone changes everything for a lot of guys. A lot of time it gives them that courage. Now, these are, mostly the guys that is given that is usually guys that they're not in relationships at the time. They're just single by themselves. There are some guys that have, and thank you, women out there. I know y'all have done so much mental, emotional labor on men. So I appreciate you for that, because there are men in my group that have been supported by their significant others. So I think we got some feedback.
We have a little feedback.
Yeah. Troy.
Okay, I lost sound for a minute, so I had to go out and come back.
That's okay. So how do you feel? What do you think it would take to overcome that fear that we've been speaking about?
Well, I think more representation. I mean, I think that's part of the problem. And okay, Chris, I said I wasn't going to go there, but I got to go there a little bit.
Okay.
And I think we need a lot less noise from the vocal minority who want to always view men as villains. I'll be politically correct as I say that. Yes, I understand your trauma. I am empathetic. I understand that men have done things to you, but I ain't did nothing to you. So all of that anger and all of that frustration, when you put it on me, I'm just gonna shut down because I don't need to hear it. And I think when you see people like, you get a celebrity getting dragged, when you see other people in the community getting dragged, I've been in rooms where people start talking about Chris, and it's just like, wait a minute. First of all, that's my homeboy, you know. And secondly, no, that's not what he said because, they like to misrepresent us. They like to put out this narrative that's false. And it makes a lot of brothers say, it's easier being DL. It's easier living in the shadows because I don't have to deal with this bullshit.
There are some guys who kind of do the little turtle thing. They kind of just stick their head out just a little bit just to see if it's safe. And sometimes what they see or encounter might make them just go right back in the closet. And they're like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm just gonna stay here. Because, I know that sounds horrible or weak of men, but it's just real. It's what's happening to some people. And, I think a lot of times if we all approach each other with a supportive spirit and a spirit of community and togetherness, I think that would really help out a lot and, judge people on their individual actions, on who they are. I get that there's a lot of trash out there. And I say this on my show all the time. I fully admit there are a lot of trash men out there doing a lot of damage. In fact, it's the majority of men. Let's just be real. So I do understand that fact. But, there are some guys that are kind of who they're just not as headstrong, and they're just coming out like, hey, y'all, I'm here. I just want to, I'm trying to be more open with this, and I want to commune with y'all. And then, and it happens on our side of the coin too. Guys, I've seen guys get their head bitten off by other men, and then the guy's gone. Because, we all have to respect each other's journey. Not everybody is ready-made the moment they show up to any space with any of us. And so I think we really have to have a lot more grace with, with these new guys coming in.
I want to just piggyback on Chris real quick. When Chris and I first started interacting, my delivery to Chris was more in your face and punching him in the mouth instead of being more of a. I mean, that's why he's laughing. It was more of, oh motherfucker, it ain't that motherfucker, it ain't that shit. Shut the fuck up, y'all can, and it made him think, wow, what did I do to this guy? Why is this guy angry at me? And it wasn't just anger. It was just, I wasn't being empathetic enough. I wasn't being subtle enough. I wasn't speaking. I was talking at him, not to him. And I think a lot of the guys who have been in community for a while, especially the married guys, need to understand that you were where these guys are at one point. And you have to understand that. And I think my saving grace is that, I've been single for quite a while since my last breakup. I've had relationships that last over a decade, but I've been single for half a decade at least. And so I can understand where some of the single guys are coming from, where some of the guys who have been in relationships for a lot of years or who are married, that they just, this isn't their reality anymore. And so they don't know how to react to it.
I definitely agree with the sentiment of, I don't think that there's enough grace. And I think people think that it's either or. They think that you're healed and you can move forward, or, you're a complete mess and we have to stop. And I think it's and both. I think that what tends to happen is that, especially within, we're all Black appearing, I hope. But within our community, I feel like there's this notion that we move forward without dealing with our trauma, without dealing with our pain, without dealing with the obstacles, the true obstacles. We just move forward. And, when we hit a wall because of those traumas and that pain, we don't know how to deal with it. And so we immediately retreat. And I think that as a community, we failed. I think in different types of relationships, we're failing because of that. I think it's and both. I think that as a Black woman with trans experience, I can speak to how difficult it is to engage when you're dealing with insurmountable trauma and pain, and you're not able to be discouraged. You're not able to retreat. You're not able to step back and be discreet or be DL or whatever. But I also think that dealing with the socio-political, the social justice, the real root causes that prevent trans-amorous men from, being able to be expressive of themselves openly, that prevent trans women from being able to live safe lives. I think addressing those issues as a community and as a whole will start to help heal those traumas, because it is difficult and it is hard. And I don't even deal with the shit either. But it is the shit. And I think that because there is so much complicated in-brain trauma, it's hard to deal with it and to manage and to be able to be in positive, productive relationships. So I definitely think it's a definitely complicated, layered thing. But I completely agree with you all. Roy, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Just getting over that fear. I think they just gotta, look in the mirror and reevaluate what's more important to them and for themselves, as far as what's gonna take care of them, who's gonna take care of them. Is it yourself or your family? And I think when they figure out those dynamics, I think it'll help them move forward and getting over their fear. Because I know that's what helped me. When I was thinking about coming out, I started looking at who's actually taking care of me. Is it my family or myself? And once I realized I'm taking care of myself, it made it easier for me to just step up, let my family know this is what I'm attracted. This is who I'm attracted to. This is who I'm going to start dating. Love it or leave it.
I completely agree.
So I think once when they start doing those little works towards themselves, I think it'll help them. I think it'll help them move forward.
I completely agree. I'm actually I want to jump into this question because I've been seeing it pop up in the comments a lot. So how does dating trans women and being trans-amorous, how does it affect your relationships with cisgender women? I definitely want to hear about that. I know we spoke about relationships with our mothers, but I would love to hear about how being trans-amorous has affected your interactions, your engagement, dating. Like I'm curious to hear about that.
I know for me, they look at me funny now. I get weird looks. I ain't never tried to go back and date a cis woman, so I don't know what that's like. But I know being around cis women who knows that I'm attracted to trans women, I definitely get those weird little looks, and who knows when I turn my back, I'm getting them dirty, negative talk. So I don't. That's my take on it from my experience.
It definitely is a lot harder. While I still get matches on dating apps or whatever else, it just really takes somebody who's very open-minded. That's really what it is, because again, the outside world, the dominant society still doesn't see trans women as women. So essentially, I have to find somebody who either sees them as women or who is okay with their man being bisexual. And, it doesn't have any of the insecurities related to, well, he's going to leave me for that because he don't like what I am, whatever. But, I've only really kind of seen one cis woman since then, but or in between my relationships with trans women. So it's only happened once. I haven't really found anybody else that I liked and they liked me, and she was more open-minded about things. So, I can't say that's my primary group that I'm shopping in for a mate right now, anyways.
Well, it doesn't have to
But
be romantic, because I also brought a mother. Well, it doesn't have to be romantic.
okay. Well, I would say when it comes to the women in my family, it has absolutely been a struggle, mostly because of, religion. I come from a Church of God of Christ household, family on both sides, mom and dad. So, it has been a struggle to get people to understand and to accept and all that stuff. I think a lot of people in our community in general are really just stuck in their Christianity, and they won't in their faith, so they won't really understand. But it's been rough. My relationship with my mother is on the mend, but after we had the coming out talk, we didn't talk for like 3 months. And then we slowly started to weave each other back into our lives. And we're not 100% healed up where we need to be. And it's, been a year and a half, 2 years. So it's a thing, but I don't know. I guess it's just, I haven't found success with the women in my lives, getting them on the same page as me. I have gotten some surface level, like, okay, acceptance, but deep down when they try and do the math and when they really want to understand or whatever else, or when I ask them to come to stuff like this, it gets a little weird. So it's not all sunshine and roses out there.
Well, I don't have no problems, because I've been walking this path for over 2 decades now. You either gonna love me or you're not. And I found that I have access to, cis women who are more bisexual or lean more lesbian, as well as just, heteronormative cis women. So because I walk in my truth so proudly, I mean, there's power in walking in your truth, and I got that from the trans women that I've dealt with over the years. I use them as inspiration, and doing that, I just haven't had the issues that I used to always fear, that I used to always walk in. It just changed my life by me just living in my truth. So my last entanglement was with a cis woman, but she wanted to have a baby, and my baby's just having babies, and I ain't making no more babies, and so I had to cut her loose. So she knew full well, because one of my play nephews knew her, and he told her my whole background before she even met me, and she was still interested. In fact, she was even more interested. And it was fun, but like I said, she wanted to have a baby, and I didn't have no babies, so I had to let her go. So again, it's all about there is a I don't like to call it coming out. I call it stepping up. Just stepping up and walking in your truth. That's important. And once you do that, and once people understand that you're unshakable, because I'm unshakable. You can't. There's nothing that you can say about me that you can't go to YouTube or my Facebook page and see that I've already said about myself. So I don't live in fear. I don't live in shame, and I don't live in shadow. So all of that makes a difference in who you are and how you walk and how your interactions go with cis women, cis men, and anybody in your life.
So, Roy, do you want to, before I go to this question, because I'm gonna add, not even related.
You can go ahead. No, you can go ahead.
I was going to ask, because somebody asked, how do y'all meet people? How do y'all meet people to date? Like, I've heard dating apps. How are we meeting?
Well, if I was looking, it'd be anywhere possible. Streets, Facebook, dating apps, anywhere possible.
I mean, go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead.
No, it could be, I don't do dating apps. I just don't think that there's any value in using a dating app. Maybe because I'm old. I'm an old man. I'd rather run into you. We might meet at a an event, LGBT event, a community event or something like that, or I know someone introduces us to something like that. I don't like doing the social media dating app thing. But that's because I'm an old dude, and old people don't like that shit. So and I have the I guess the honor of living off my reputation. So people kind of know me, before I get to a space. So that helps.
Down at the juke joint. So Joelle.
Boom, boom, boom.
So actually, I polled the guys in my group about this very subject.
Really?
I put out a poll. My friend and I, we were talking, me and my homegirl, she was just like, we were both arguing over how guys meet women and what are their preferred places to do this. And she thought one thing, I thought the other. I think we were both kind of wrong. But so I'm looking at it right now. So I asked, what's their preferred way to meet trans women? I asked, here the options were, the social media DMs, LGBTQ community events, dating apps, at the bar/clubs, escorting, or being referred by a friend. And the clear winner was social media DMs.
It goes down in the DMs.
So Instagram, Facebook.
Goes down in the DMs.
Yeah, and we talked about this on my show a couple of times about some women being upset that they're getting a bunch of friend requests, and I mean Troy and I have talked about us getting flooded with friend requests here and there as well. A lot of these guys get it, but yeah, they prefer to meet women on social media and jump in the DMs there. Number 2 was community events.
So here's my thing about the DM. And this is my thing about dating. I really hate, because if you're going to shoot your shot, don't miss. If you're going to shoot your shot, don't miss. Don't slide in my DM talking about what you doing, what's up, how's your day, how's life, don't know. If you're going to shoot your shot, don't miss. Give me Kobe, give me LeBron, give me Mike. Like that, let's not miss. Too many men shoot their shot and they foul. It's not going. It's not happening. So I feel like when people shoot their shot, I can't even take them seriously. If they're like, how you doing, grand rising, how's your day? But it's no real and I feel like that's for me personally. I prefer meet me out. Like, let me see you in live and in full, in living color and full effect. But the sliding in the DMs, I don't know. Maybe I feel like people's conversational skills aren't really up to par in the in the 20th 21. But I could be wrong.
Well, the meeting in person thing can be a little rough in some cities because not every city has a strong community. Not every city has like that place that everybody goes to hang out and meet folks in X, Y, and Z. It's just not every city has those things. The best city I lived in for that was Denver. Denver had like really structured events where it was like, hey, everybody. And they had, non-conforming and trans community. Everybody come out to this event. We're going to have this party over here. We're going to have this pool party over here. And it was very clear. While I've lived here mostly during COVID, Houston hasn't been that as easy for me. I have to be honest. And
I'm curious. I'm curious to hear why.
Yeah, no, even just being a newcomer in Houston.
I'm an LA girl, so.
Oh, that's cool.
Here.
I hope to move there someday. But just being a newcomer, I don't know anybody here really. I have Jules, was my boy. But going out to certain venues, it's like, the community's out there. Everybody know each other. It's political as fuck. And I have no appetite for any of that at all.
That's
gonna
have to be a separate conversation. That's gonna have to be an off the record conversation.
Well,
all right.
Well. Let me add this, and this goes back to our other conversation, and it also applies to trying to meet women. again, most guys live in fear. And as you know, Chris, I always give my fear quote from After Earth, which states, "Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Now, do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice." I've used that quote on 1,000 conversations that I've had with the brothers because it applies to so many aspects of our lives. We choose to be afraid. We are not in danger, like the girls are in danger of being killed. That is not our reality. Has it happened? Yes, rarely. There's probably only 2 really recorded instances of guys being killed for dating trans women or standing up to. One was in Texas. The other was Capernia Adams, the movie The Soldier's Girl. Those are the only 2 really recorded that I know of where guys were actually attacked. So if you add the interactions that all of the men all over the country have had with trans women, and the amount of times where something has happened, it's probably negligible. But we live in that fear, thinking that people are going to say or do something to us, and it never happens. We are afraid, what happens if I step to this girl, and she says no. If she say no, well, then she wasn't for me, and I'm gonna move on to the next one. We have to stop living in fear. We have to stop allowing fear to control us. We have to stop making that choice.
I completely agree. All right.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Doug. Doug reminded me. He said I was off my game and I didn't make that do my little thing. So thank you, Doug. I appreciate it.
I got one more question, and then before we begin to wrap it up, I want to thank y'all. But my last question is kind of just to bring it back full circle. What do you all feel is the next hurdle really to, or when we're talking about acceptance, when we're talking about liberation, when we're talking about the openness, what do you all feel like is the next main hurdle, or maybe that we're still trying to overcome when we're talking about trans-amorous relationships?
Communication. We need to start talking to each other, stop talking at each other or about each other. I think that's the biggest thing. We don't talk to each other. A lot of guys, especially newer guys, don't understand, the journey that trans women go through, the trauma and the stuff that trans women deal with. But by that same token, trans women don't understand our journeys, and they don't understand that there's levels to where we are. And if we don't communicate, and if we don't have empathy, and if we don't listen, and not listen to respond, but listen to understand, then we're not going to ever go forward. And we're stuck in this. We're stuck in the mud. And like my cousin Vinny, you know what happens when you're in a car and you're stuck in the mud in Alabama, and one tire spins and the other tire doesn't. That's literally where this community is right now. We're stuck in the mud. We're spinning our wheels, and we're not moving forward. And so until we communicate, until we have empathy, until we have understanding, we're going to be stuck.
And I mean, really, we've been stuck in this spot I'm not going to say we, because I ain't been here that long. Well, this community has been stuck in the same spot for decades at this point. It has been us versus them. Men are the enemy. These guys, we can't be at each other's throats. And we really, I always charge men with casting away their male privilege and standing up for the community and protecting women in the community at any cost, at any moment that they can. Step up, protect women, X, Y, and Z, be a part of the solution. And, I really do think it's us really coming together as two communities, or just as one community, because really the enemy is out there, not here, out there. So we need to come together so that we can help each other defend from the outside. We get these marches doubled up and get some men at these marches. Instead of chasing these dudes away and calling them a chaser, bring them in. That's an extra body to help protect you from the police when they try and crack your head. I just think that great things could really happen once we start to incorporate each other into the mix, into moving things forward. And, I think it really, we really got to put the guns down. Got to put the guns down. That's where I think we need to go with all of this stuff. And I think it's going to take, I think it might take different people being listened to, and or the community start to, I don't even know. I'm just saying, like Trope's talking about loud minority, X, Y, and Z. There are only a few voices out there that a lot of people are listening to, and they're largely directing the conversation. And it's not headed in a way where we actually come together as one community. I'm not trying to take over your community. I'm not trying to take up all of your space. I'm happy to sit in the back of the fucking bus. But at least we're on the same, I could ride the bench, but at least we're on the same team. Sorry, Roy. Yeah, Roy. Yeah, go ahead, man. What was the question? Was what we can do to move things forward, right?
Yes. What do you all feel like the next step?
Yeah.
I mean, y'all pretty much touched on it all. We need to communicate more, and we're not your enemy.
Yeah.
There's nothing for me to say. Y'all touched on it.
I completely agree. I definitely think communication, and I think sometimes it's okay to be uncomfortable, and discomfort and dissent and conflict are sometimes vital for progression. I think that sometimes we have to be a little discomfortable just to be able to move the needle forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be comfortable work. And that's okay. Now, when it gets to being too much, that's another thing. But I think that it's not going to be comfortable, not for a while, not for a long while. But I think that there is, standing in discomfort for a little bit to be able to move twice or three times forward. I think it's worth it. I think, but I do completely agree. I think open communication and creating a safe space and coming from not a place of harm or malice,
Mm-hmm.
I think that will begin to, continue to move that needle forward.
And one very small thing, I think there also needs to be respect for the fact that we're different. We like Troy was talking about, our experiences are different, our perspectives are different. So the solution to this problem with men is not going to look anything like the solution to the problem of getting women to be accepted by society. For us, this is largely, grassroots, like internet. This is largely a movement on the internet where we're using the medium of the internet to reach as many men as possible. So, marches down the street and political organizing and all that stuff, that's not particularly what I believe to be the solution from our standpoint. A friend of mine once said, you can't cure cancer the same way you cure a cold. It takes different medicine. So, this is these men being DL and staying DL, completely different problem. It takes a different solution. And we have to be okay with people being free to combat things in a way and really serve the greater good in their own way, not the way that you would want, that you would dictate that they serve it.
Let me jump on that just for half a second. Hey, Brianna, by the way. I got you, Brianna. You come to Detroit. I will be your tour guide. But here's the thing. We've been doing things that just don't work. Between trans women and the men that love them. One of the things that we've been asked is for more men to step up. I started doing my YouTube page after Diamond Styles, and I did a video probably about 9 years ago. And I have touched so many people on an international basis. And, one of the questions that we didn't touch is like, what are we doing? What we're doing is we're trying to get men to love and accept themselves, because you can't love and accept someone else until you do that for yourself. And I think that's huge. And unfortunately, a lot of women don't see the work that we do. They don't understand what we do because it's not their reality. And the analogy is, it's like this white grandfather who now has biracial grandchildren, who doesn't understand critical race theory and is upset because they're not going to like the white side of themselves. But really, all they're learning is the truth. You know, there's some truths about, you know, the men that we are, our journeys, and the things that we go through that are still a mystery because nobody wants to hear it. And until we get to the point of open communication and trust, and a lot of that has to be earned. And yes, like Chris said, there's a lot of men who are full of shit. It's real. But if you continue to let ancient men into your life and then say that all men ain't shit, no, just all the men that you dealt with ain't shit. You've never looked outside of that circle.
I completely agree. I think that it's attacking the disease, not the symptom of the disease. I think that I can't speak for trans men. I can speak for, Black trans women. I think that once we start to provide sustainable employment, once we start to provide housing, once we start to create a community of safety where trans women can live and exist safely without the possibility of murder, once we start to, be able to give them the resources, the mental health resources, the general health resources for them to be able to have a good state of health, that by doing that, trans women will be able to have a better quality of life. And it starts at the bottom of the pyramid. It doesn't of the pyramid. It doesn't start at the top. I think a lot of people think that liberation starts at the top and trickles down, but it doesn't. The top is straight, rich, white men. And if we start there,
Troy,
all the fruits of the liberation.
Troy, we're hearing everything that's happening in your room right now, man.
Yes. But if we, I think that if we, start to fix those social justice issues with Black trans women, then they will have a better quality of life. If we start to tackle those social justice issues with cis Black men and the things that they go to at a social justice level, I think that will in turn create better, we'll be able to have better communication because we'll have more capacity for it. Because Black trans women don't have capacity for communication when they're fearing for their life. They don't have jobs, they don't have housing, they, don't have health care, they're, doing black market loans, and all of these things. Black men don't have capacity for better communication when they're forced to keep their true selves inside. They're forced to internalize their feelings. They're forced to exhibit a level of toxic heteromasculinity. I think that when we open up that capacity by fixing those social justice issues at the core, then we'll have capacity to communicate with each other. So I definitely agree, Jules, that it's very intersectional. And I feel like an intersectional approach is what we really need, honestly, because it's not either or, it's and both. I can't, as a Black trans woman, I can't love my men if my men are not where they need to be, and vice versa. So I think that it is intersectional. It's everyone, we all are invested in liberation, and we can't move forward if we all don't fix the true things that are blocking us from liberation.
Yeah, and I think it's also a symptom of, we're all different parts of the body of this movement, and the parts aren't moving in a way where the movement, which is the body, is going forward. The leg is going one way, the other leg's going the other way, the arm ain't doing what it's supposed to do, and we're all out of sync, and this thing is just stuck. I think that's another way to look at it as well, because we all serve our own different purpose here.
I completely agree. All right. Well, we have come to the end of our conversation. There were so many questions and comments. I'm so sorry that we could not get to all of them. Maybe we can have a part 2 of the conversation. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. But definitely, this is such an amazing conversation. I wish it could have gone on forever. Would each of you, before we close, would any of you or all of you, would you like to give like a final thought?
Oh, wow. Was thinking about a final thought. I would say, wow. I would say at this juncture, the one thing I would like from, members of the community who, are walking away from this, I want you to walk away from this understanding that, ditch the stereotypes about trans-amorous men. Really take the time to learn who we are. You listening to this right now, you've taken the time. You've listened to the whole conversation. You've heard from us directly, and you didn't hear, well, such and such said, I think, well, I heard. One girl told me they this and they that. Whenever any of that stuff is happening, please just squash, because a lot of times the stereotypes and the hearsay isn't productive and it's not positive. So I would encourage you to challenge anyone out there with, do you actually know somebody in this community? Have you talked to somebody? Have you listened to a podcast? Like, where are you getting all of this from? Because really, misinformation at this point is the enemy. So I would encourage everyone to do their best to fight misinformation at every turn.
First, I want to thank you for allowing us on your platform to have this conversation. That's how I started out doing stuff. And I want to give a shout out to Miko Hicks and Diamond Styles, because those were the first two but they allowed me on their platform. And I remember before I got onto Diamond's video, I was doing Miko. She had a blog talk radio show where she had me on, and I was able to be mysterious, or so I thought, because she called me the distinguished gentleman from Detroit or from Michigan. And one day I got into an argument with someone on the show, and somebody called my name, Troy Kennedy. Calm down. I said, "Oh my God, oh my God," and it made me realize that being on your platform, giving my voice to women in the community is going to reach other men. And like Chris said, this is what we need. We need these voices out here. We need these conversations. And again, I want to take my hat off to you for facilitating this. It was much needed. And I'm always here for my brother. I told Chris, if you need me, I'm there. The same thing with Roy, the same thing with a lot of the brothers in the community. Most of them, if you're righteous, I got you. If you ain't righteous, I'm gonna challenge you, and I want you to do better and be better. So,
Roy, do you have a final thought?
That's it. Let's just continue to be better so we can, do better. That's it. Let's continue to grow as individuals and become a better person, so that way we can become a better community.
I completely agree. I don't even have any final thoughts. I think this is an amazing conversation. My final thought will probably be later late at night. However, before we end, where can the people find you all?
Well, you can find me. At the Men Like Us podcast. The Men Like Us podcast is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those podcasting platforms. We're also on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Trying to think if I'm leaving anything else out, but we do live shows on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're also starting to stream on Twitch. But we do live shows every week, usually about Friday evenings around 8:30 Eastern. So we do all of our shows live. We put them all out there, and then we also do we put the live conversations on the podcast and platform. So we also have a men's only group, a safe space for men. It's called the Men Like Us Tribe. That's where I quoted the little poll from today. So, from our sample audience. But guys, it's a safe space, judgment-free, no matter where you're at in your journey. This is the place for you. Whatever situation you're in, there's somebody else in that group that has either been there or is there and identifies with it. Whether you're completely all the way DL and you just are trying to figure yourself out, or you're a married man trying to understand your attraction, guys in our group have lived that or are already right there with you. So you can get guidance where in whatever part of your journey you're in. It's the Men Like Us Tribe on Facebook. Sorry, ladies, you can't get in.
It's the same thing with the trans-amorous brotherhood. It is a brotherhood. It is for men only, for men who date trans women, and we do include trans men who date trans women because they are our brothers and they are allowed in the group. It is a men's only group, and they are men. So you can also reach me on Facebook at Troy Kennedy, on YouTube and Instagram, Mr. Kennedy. There's 3 R's after Mr. and 3 R underscore Kennedy, 3 Y's after Kennedy. You know, I've been doing this for a very long time. I don't do it as much, but I'm glad that guys like Chris are you know, taking up the mantle and running with the ball. And I'm just here to just kind of, I'm the co-pilot. I ain't the guy doing all the talking, although I talk a lot.
Roy, where can we find you at?
You can find me on Facebook, Roy Plump, and TikTok, Royal Smokes.
Oh, he got some dope TikToks. You should really check his shit out.
You do the TikTok dances?
Nah, I do my own thing.
Okay.
It's kind of like Conscious Lee videos. Like he does his own like thought videos and shit. And he just, I love him. So I'm just pumping you up, bro, because I share them all the time.
Please, let people know where they can find you, please. I'm not a big TikToker because it's a lot for me. No.
Is it Royal _ Smokes?
Yeah. No, just Royal Smokes.
Okay, all one word in TikTok?
Yep.
All right, cool. That's where y'all can find them. Dope content.
And I am Joelle. You can find me on Facebook. I am the communications manager for the Mahogany Project. I also do the communications for another organization that I actually work with full time, the Normal Anomaly. I'm on Instagram. I'm your man's first choice. I'm on Twitter, your man's first choice. I think I'm on TikTok as your man's first choice. But you know, I'm your man's first choice at the end of the day. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for your comments. I want to thank Men Like Us. And definitely we don't have to stop the conversation. So you all have a good night. And that is a wrap for This Is Us.